Hello everyone, and thank you for watching the Wasabi Aquarium channel. Today I would like to take you through part 1 of the ultimate guide to water changing a planted aquarium. Water change is perhaps the most basic and most important part of maintenance of an aquatic plant aquarium. The reason for this is that almost 80% of problems you face in an aquatic plant aquarium can be solved by simply changing the water. Since an aquatic plant aquarium is a closed space, any problems that occur inside this closed space can lead to unnecessary algae, the condition of the aquatic plants getting worse, or the health of the fish deteriorating, and the problem almost always lies in the water. Of course, since I mentioned about 80%, maybe 20% of the time, the problem may be elsewhere. But since 80% of the problems are caused by bad conditioning of the water, they can almost certainly be solved by simply replacing the water. And thus, water change is the most basic and most important step in maintaining a healthy environment inside your aquarium. At the same time, I understand that there is almost no one that likes to go through the steps of changing the water of your tank. Well, there may be about 5% of you that like water change, but usually people say it's tedious, it takes time, and most people want to avoid water change as much as possible. However, as I mentioned before, water change is absolutely essential to maintaining a healthy, beautiful aquarium. So in this series of videos, I would like to take you through the most efficient and easy steps to change the water in your tank. I think this video will be especially helpful to those who have just started building out their aquarium or have found water change very tedious and time consuming. And there are 2 essential steps in changing your water. The first is being as efficient as possible, and the second step is to follow the correct steps in the correct order. So first, I'd like to introduce the tools that we actually use to change the water at our store. As you can see, they've been in use for quite some time, so you'll see they're a bit worn out or dirty, but I'd like to explain in detail on how important it is to use the correct tools in order to save time and be as efficient as possible. So there are 2 ways to change the water in your tank. The first one is to simply replace the old water with new water. The second method is to clean the dirt inside your tank while replacing the water. The required tools change depending on which method you decide to go by, so I'll go through each method in detail. Let's start with the first way, which is to simply replace the water in your tank. The first tool you'll need here is a Pro Hose Extra by Suisaku. This tool is extremely useful. You press this part right here and it pumps the water out of the tank. Very simple and very useful. This hose comes in different sizes from small, medium, and large, so you must choose the right size depending on how big your aquarium is. Once again, this is the perfect tool for water change. The second tool you'll need is this water bucket. We've been using this for a while now, so it's worn out in some areas, but this is a very useful bucket. You can hang towels over here. There's a place over here to pour water without spilling any of it, and there's also a scale inside so you can keep track of how much water you pumped out. There's also a hose holder here so you can place your hose here. It may not seem like it at first, but this bucket is filled with quite a lot of useful technology. Next, if you're gonna clean the inside of your tank while changing the water, the required tools are gonna change. The thing is, for the Pro Hose I just showed you, it can pump out powdery dirt without any problem. But if you try to use it to clean out excess plants or more larger objects, the hose is gonna clog at this joint over here, which then you'll have to clean out your hose, start over again, which is gonna take up more time than necessary. So if you would like to clean out your aquarium, it is much better to use a simple traditional hose. So in the case of hoses like this one, you don't have to worry about it clogging up with leaves or any dirt, so it makes this process much more efficient. However, unlike the previous Pro Hose that allows you to clip the hose on the edge of the tank, you have to hold on to the hose throughout the process. So in case where you need to do other work while pumping out the water, you can use these tools called hose holders. These hose holders make the multitasking much easier. You clip this onto the edge of the tank and secure the hose. And now you don't have to worry about getting your floor all wet. So I'll get into more details when we actually demonstrate how to use these tools. Unlike the Pro Hose, which has a pump over here, which you press several times to bring out the water, and it's super easy to start the flow of the water without any trouble. But a normal hose does not have that aspect, so you have to suck air from the other end of the hose with your mouth. This is a pretty common process, so if you're used to it, it's not a big deal. But if this is new for you, it may take a bit of time to get used to at first. If you're worried that you might suck some of the water into your mouth by mistake, we have this tool called the Starter by Aheim, which allows you to pump out the water like this as you squeeze this part several times. Super easy and super simple. As I mentioned earlier, using the correct tools allows the process to be much more efficient and simple. I'll leave links for the tools I introduced in the description section below, so if any of the tools interest you, please take a look. So now let's actually go ahead and use these tools, and we'll demonstrate how simple changing the water of your tank can be. Let's start with the first method of simply replacing the water. The first thing you must not forget is to make sure that you've plugged out all filters and other electronics attached to the tank. When the water level decreases, the filters can short. So make sure to plug out all filters and any other electronics such as heaters or anything else you have attached to the tank so that you can go through the cleaning process safely without any worries. Now let's start pumping out the old water. First, we place the Pro Hose in the tank. The tank we're using here is a 60 centimeter tank, so please make sure to use or purchase a hose of the correct size based on the size of your tank. So after placing your hose in the tank, you go ahead and press this part right here a few times, and the water starts flowing out through the hose. Super simple, right? Doesn't get much easier than this. If by any chance a fish gets sucked into the hose, it'll stop at the joint over here so you can safely remove the old water. One tip would be to place the hose at the bottom of the tank because dirt and other substances that you want to remove are heavy, so they pile up at the bottom, so it's much more efficient if you place the hose at the bottom of the tank. And here I'll show you the other end of the hose where the water is draining out into the bucket. As you can see, there's a hose holder here which clips the hose onto the bucket tightly so you have no worry of the hose moving around and the water splashing onto your carpet. So just clip the hose onto the bucket and you're all set. And now I'd like to show you the second method of changing your water while cleaning your tank. First of all, we're going to clip these hose holders onto the tank. Since we're going to use a normal standard hose, we're going to need these to secure the hose in place. Of course, if you're planning to hold onto the hose during the entire process, you won't need these holders. But by utilizing these, it allows you to multitask and do other tasks simultaneously. So we're going to clip one on the outside and the other on the inside. And now let's attach the hose. You make sure it's securely attached by looking for the clicking sound. And the other one over here as well, like this. Next, we're going to start draining the water out, which involves sucking out the air with your mouth, which allows gravity to push the water out automatically. I'm sure a lot of you are used to this process and understand that you only need to suck the air out for an instant, so there's no worry of breathing in the water. But if this makes you concerned about the water going into your mouth, you can use this starter right here. You attach this to the hose and squeeze like this, and here we go. And then you place this end of the hose into your bucket and we're all set. And then we can go ahead and take this end of the hose out of the holder and suck the dirt out with the water. I'm not sure if you could see that, but I just cleaned out some extra leaves. If you try to do this with the Pro hose, the plants will clog the inside, so in this case, this simple hose is the way to go. And here you can attach the hose again to the holder to do anything else. You can also stop the flow of the water by squeezing this part right here. So if you need both hands for any instance while changing the water, you're free to do so. Also, when you're cleaning out your tank, you won't be using this holder, but it does give you much more freedom if you have it just in case. And now this is our bucket. The straight simple hoses don't have their own holders, so we're gonna attach it to the holder attached to the bucket, which prevents the hose from jumping out onto the floor and making your floor all wet. As you've noticed by now, this bucket is also super useful, so I'll place a link in the description below. I hope you enjoyed this video. We went through the proper tools and the correct procedures on efficiently changing the water of your tank. As I mentioned in the beginning of this video, water change is an essential part of maintaining the beauty of your tank. And skipping this process can make everything else so much more difficult. I've skipped a few detailed explanations on why the water must be changed every so often, but I'll leave some videos in the description for you to watch if you're interested, as understanding these reasons may add more motivation to change the water as much as possible. It's totally understandable that just because someone tells you to do so, it doesn't necessarily motivate you to do something tedious. But by understanding how essential and absolutely necessary this step is, I'm sure it'll help this make a habit. So please watch some of the videos in the description link. In the next video, we'll take you through the procedures of adding water once you've taken out the old water. If you have any specific questions on what we covered in this video or anything you would like for us to elaborate in more detail, please feel free to leave any questions or comments in the comment section below. Although we may not be able to reply to each and every comment, once we start to see similar responses and feedback, we will try to create a Q&A video to cover your questions, so please do not hesitate and feel free to ask anything or leave any feedback below. This is it for the first episode. If you found this video interesting, please kindly subscribe to the Wasabi Aquarium channel, and pressing the like button would also be greatly appreciated. That is it for this video. Thank you!